Hello everyone, welcome to the Professional Development on Project-Based Learning, educating today's students for tomorrow's world. I'm sure you are well aware, and this has just kind of run through your heads many times, that we are preparing students for a world that no one knows what it's going to be like. We don't know what the world's going to be like 5 years from now, let alone 20 years from now when these students are working and everything. So one of the ways to try and help prepare them for the world of tomorrow is through the use of project-based learning. Project-based learning has been a big buzzword in education for so long that a lot of people don't honestly understand what it means or why it works. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about project-based learning, what it is, why it works, and how you can use it in your classroom. First off, what is it? At its core, project-based learning simply asks a question or poses a problem that all students can answer. For example, what is cystic fibrosis and how is it caused? How can we beautify our school for $200? Why do bacteria in the soil help support life? Or design a better lunch menu for our school. You'll notice that all of these are simple questions that students can answer, but the catch is we want them to be questions that there's not just one simple answer for it. So you'll notice this first one, what is cystic fibrosis and how is it caused? That's not really a very good basis for project-based learning, but we'll get into that in just a minute. So these students are actually doing project-based learning. They have a hands-on activity where they're working on bridges. So why would you want to use project-based learning in your classroom? First off, it increases student engagement. Your students are going to be much more engaged in a project-based learning plan than they would doing worksheets or taking notes or any of the traditional teaching methodologies. Also, PBL fosters complex, abstract thought. It requires students to think more abstractly. It requires them to use their brains and get into those upper levels of blooms, which are much more complex than simple recall and regurgitation of information. Also, it simulates real-world situations. The stuff that you do in PBL are the kind of things that students would do in the real world. These are the kind of problem being solved in the real world. This is one of the reasons it's so helpful when preparing them for the future, because it teaches them how to solve problems, which is a skill that's always going to be valuable. It also focuses on those higher-level blooms. It gets away from the simple recall and moves towards the actual creation and synthesis. And it also fosters 21st century skills. We've all heard about the 21st century skills and why they're important in today's world, so PBL definitely helps with these. And it increases curriculum integration. In case you're unaware, curriculum integration is basically whenever you have projects or things that cross the curriculum. For example, you might have a social studies project where students perform research. Research is an English skill, so you would have that curriculum integration between social studies and research. You might have a project where students are using math in the science class, or they're using English in the science class. Any of these things. This is called curriculum integration, and PBL helps to increase that. The reason this is important is because curriculum integration is how the world works. You'll never see in the real world a problem that only uses math skills. Not in the real world. So it's important to help prepare students by doing these things. So now we're going to talk about how to actually implement project-based learning. First, you need to create a standards-based question or problem. Look at your standards, because remember, this is the content that we need to teach our students. Look at the standards and come up with a question or a problem for them. For example, how can we eliminate waste in the school cafeteria? Do you think this would be a good problem-based learning question? Yeah, it's pretty good. Some students might not be all that engaged in it because they don't care about eliminating waste, but a lot of them would. But this is a good problem-based learning question. Some of the reasons why it's good is because it allows for a lot of different solutions. There's a lot of different ways you can eliminate waste. It also requires students to kind of brainstorm and come up with different creative solutions. It would require students to actually go to the cafeteria and talk with the food service people and figure out how they do their job and what goes on there. There's all kinds of different things that students can do, real-world, authentic activities to help that they would need to do this research. They would be doing real-world research, by the way, on this too, so all kinds of different stuff. What were the contributing factors in World War I? Do you think this would be a good driving question? Not really, because it doesn't pose a problem for students to solve. All it does is just require them to look up some information. You wouldn't want to use what were the contributing factors to World War I in a problem-based learning approach. Now, is this important information to know? Absolutely. This is good knowledge to know. You need to know this stuff. But it does not lend itself well to a problem-based learning. How might we provide housing for the homeless in our area? Would this be a good problem-based learning question? Yeah. It would be especially good with students who have a strong sense of social responsibility. In other words, they feel like they want to help people, they want to help others in their society. So this would be an excellent one. You could come up with all kinds of different stuff. This one might be great in that you actually go out and make some housing for the homeless in the area. This is the idea behind the problem-based learning, is to not just live in a bubble in our theoretical educational bubble, is to actually go out and solve some of these problems.